understand animal tissues. Now, animal tissue classification is one of the most simplest classification to understand. We can broadly classify animal tissues as epithelial tissues, muscular tissues, connective tissues, and nervous tissues. However, each of these tissues we would understand in separate detail in advanced lectures, but here we would have an overview about each of the tissues. So, to begin with, the first one is epithelial tissue. Now, epithelial tissues, to understand simply, are flat. They are actually the tissues which are on the layer surface. Now, this epithelial tissues could be classified under two ways: simple and stratified. Then, under the simple one and the stratified one, the classification remains the same. What is the classification? It could be squamous, that means squarish in shape. It could be cuboidal, that is cubical in shape, or it could be columnar, that is columns in shape. So based on the shape, it could be column-like, it could be a cube-like, a dice that you play with, or a squamous, which is on the epidermis, the surface. Now let's begin with the simplest one, the squamous. Squamous is the epidermis. Now this squamous is flat. It is plate-like, and therefore it is also called as pavement. You go to the garden, you walk on a pavement, and it's arranged in a squamous section, and therefore squamous ones are called as pavement epithelium. Very, very important, very, very simple to learn. The surface is thin. The most interesting feature is, on the surface, wherever you see a bulge, definitely on this surface you won't be able to see microscopic bulge, but on the surface of the cell, if you see a small bulge, that indicates what? That indicates nucleus, as simple as that. So under a microscope, the identification becomes very simple. The cell surface or the wall is actually thin in the case of simple squamous. Good examples: blood vessels, epidermis of the skin, buccal cavity, Bowman's capsule in kidney. Then we have lungs, the alveoli of the lungs. All of those are examples of squamous epithelium. Coming on next is cuboidal. As the name suggests, cubical structures, or they could be polygonal, hexagonal in nature. Most likely cubical in nature. They have a nucleus which is present in the center. As you can see in the diagram, nucleus is located in the center of the cubical structure. That's one of the classic characteristics. Now, where they are present and what is the function? The most important function of cuboidal epithelial cells is excretion, secretion, gamete formation. So those are some of the common functions. Now, where are cuboidal cells present? Cuboidal cells are present in the germinal epithelium of the gonads. It's also present in the endocrine systems, for example in thyroid. In the case of pancreatic glands, you have cuboidal epithelium. So to best understand, you can have in mind the major endocrine glands. That would give you a rough idea about where cuboidal epithelial cells are present. The next is columnar. Now columnar are interesting. As they said, they are column-like. Now interesting to note, it's not just the epithelial is columnar. Again, the nucleus is also columnar. So it is a little elongated. That's what you can remember here. So columnar, the nucleus is elongated, usually elongated at the base side. The next interesting thing is, these columnar ones have numerous modifications. Three important modifications that we would understand. One is ciliated, the other is glandular, and the third one is sensory. Three important modifications of columnar cells. Ciliated, as the name suggests, would have cilia. Now cilia and flagella we have already understood in the previous lectures. So cilia is seen on the body of paramecium, a good example to recall back. Flagella in the case of Euglena, dinoflagellates. Now cilia are small hair-like structures on the top of the columnar structure, and therefore we call it as ciliated columnar epithelium, where it is present in the nasal passage. It avoids any dust movement inside the nose. Also in the uriniferous tubules, ciliated columnar epithelials are present. The idea of columnar cells overall, be it ciliated, glandular or sensory, is increase or help in the process of absorption. The next one is glandular. Glandular could be uniglandular or multiglandular. Now let's understand the difference between the two. Uniglandular is usually seen in the goblet cells in alimentary canal. Multiglandular is present in sweat glands, oil glands, which are also called as sebaceous glands in the body. The next is sensory columnar. Sensory columnar are ones which have free sensory end, and now since they have free sensory end, where they would be present on the sense organs, as simple as that. That means taste bud, olfactory sense in the nose. So there is where you have the sensory columnar epithelium which is present. Next coming to is stratified. Now as I said, the three classification that we did, squamous, cuboidal and columnar. All of these three would apply to stratified as well. So you would have stratified squamous, stratified cuboidal and stratified columnar. So these are the various ways under which we would have the stratified epithelium. These stratified epithelium are, as the name suggests, stratified. That means more than one layer. So they have various layers of epithelium which are present. As you can see in the diagrams, they have multiple layers which are present, and usually the upper layer in certain cases could be of dead squamous epithelial cells. That's again important to note. So in the case of squamous, the upper layer is sometimes dead in nature. The idea is it remains tough and it protects the inner layers of epithelium, and that's the major reason why stratified ones are important.